Well, joining us now to talk about what they'd like to see from government, we are joined by Lana Payne, president of Unifor, which is Canada's largest private sector union, representing more than 300,000 workers. Hello, Lana.
Well, Michael, good to be here.
Nice seeing you again. Listen, Unifor has already submitted its list of priorities for the upcoming federal budget. If you will, in broad strokes, what are you looking for from government as Parliament resumes?
Well, we have kind of 4 core priorities, but many other things that we'd obviously like to see the government act upon. But for sure, affordability issues are top of mind for all working Canadians at the moment, and what's happening with the cost of living, and of course housing in there as well. Employment insurance, which is always an issue that we feel needs improvement. Industrial policies, like we've seen in auto, we need to expand this out to other sectors of the economy. And of course, forever and a day, we have been trying to get anti-scab legislation, and this has now been tabled, and we want to see that fast-tracked through the House of Commons. Okay,
so let's break that up a little bit. Let's begin here with affordability and industrial policy, because, in the months since Parliament came back in September, now the Christmas break, and they're coming back from that, we have seen the Trudeau Liberals focus on housing through things like the Housing Accelerator, the rental build program. We've seen them invest billions of dollars into an EV supply chain in Canada. How would you rate the government so far? Because in many ways, what you're listing as priorities are things that the government has also listed as their own priorities.
I think that these are good steps. All of what you've just named are good steps. But clearly we're in a situation right now where inflation is still not necessarily as much of a problem, except interest rates are a big problem. And we have not seen prices come down on core items like housing, like food, like fuel. And this is top of mind. We see it at the bargaining table every single day, that this ability to be able to pay your bills, have a good living, not go backwards, is spilling over into conflict at every bargaining table that Unifor has had. Last year was a tumultuous year in many ways, but also a year in which we made incredible gains for working people. So, there is more, I believe, that the government can do. We have to look at, the huge profitability in some of these sectors in the economy, how we can have, for example, an excess profits tax, and then take that money and make sure that we're redistributing it in a number of forms to help lower and middle income Canadians. This is what we expect government to do. But for sure, with respect to the EV supply chain, they have done a tremendously good job in the auto sector, building back up the manufacturing sector, which was decimated during the Conservative Harper years, for example. We had the global financial crisis, and it took a lot to get back to this stage, and we don't want to lose momentum here. But the reality is we have to continue on doing what we're doing in auto, and then looking at all these other sectors of the economy that are also going to face a transition, whether it's in telecommunications, whether it's in forestry, whether it's in aviation, transit, rail, you name one. They are all going to have to prepare themselves for the future and for the future economy. And what we're saying is government has to be part of that. Workers have to be part of that. We can't just leave it up to chance that we're going to get an economy that works for everybody. We have to fight for that, and we have to work towards it.
Okay, you talk about that, but at the same time, when the fall economic statement came out, there were already concerns being raised about the amount of deficit the government's running, the cumulative debt as a result of deficit, and really critics pointing out that already the government spends more in servicing national debt than they do on health care. Just how involved can government be?
I think part of the problem there, though, is what we're seeing on interest rates. So if we can take care of that, and if Tiff Macklin can work very quickly this year to get interest rates down, obviously this will help with the debt. But I mean, we have to put all of this in perspective. We went through a huge pandemic that had drastic impacts on the world, and we needed our government to act during that period. We needed them to support Canadians. We needed them to make sure that the economy was in a good place when we came out of the pandemic, and they did that. And as a result, we have some deficits out there, but we can build a strong economy to help take care of those deficits too. It's not one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about the replacement workers legislation. As you say, it's been introduced by the government, but are you concerned that they're going to lose their resolve? Because there are those that are pushing back, namely the Chamber of Commerce, concerned about what this will actually do and their ability to make sure manufacturing is never interrupted.
Yeah, knock me over with a feather that would be the Chamber's response to any improvement to labor legislation in this country. I'm not concerned that they will back away from this. I think they've made it clear that this is a core part of their mandate this year. It was in their platform. There's a lot of pressure from the labor movement to make sure that this happens. And of course, the NDP and the Bloc are supporting the legislation. What we need to see is to make sure it gets through quickly. Not sure where the Conservatives are going to be on this. Likely they won't support it, but we're going to do our best to try and convince them that this should have all-party support. And the real issue is the implementation of it. So once it receives royal assent, we don't want this to be a year or 18 months down the road before it has an impact on working people's ability at the collective bargaining table to be able to feel that they have a fairer system in place. So getting that period shortened is going to be a priority.
Okay, so things you're watching out for. Before you go, we have less than a minute, but I do have to ask you because already this government is getting ready for the U.S. election, whether it be a second Biden term or a second Trump term. They're talking about reviving or have revived this whole Team Canada approach. Where do you see Unifor fitting in that?
I expect workers and Unifor to have a place on Team Canada. We need to fight for fair trade for workers. We did this before, and we expect to be able to do it again.
Lana Payne, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this.
Great. Thanks so much.